Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be setting up my budget planner and we are going to be looking at the month of June. I do have my budget planner over here if you've never seen it before. This is the budget planner that I created and I use it to keep up with all of the different things that we need to do for the house. So I keep my personal budget in here. I do have an electronic version for my business budget, and drop a comment below if y'all are interested in seeing that. But today we're going to be pulling out the next month, and I'm going to be flipping over to my budget planner in here. So I like to use this one to stay on top of my transactions and my budget for the month. So currently I have been paying myself every 2 weeks, and so that is what I believe I'm going to do for the month of June. And we're going to list out all the bills that I'm going to be covering from the first 2 weeks and then do the second 2 weeks. So I'm going to pull this one out. Put it back within my budget planner. So I'm gonna start off by writing the month here, and I'm going to write down my goals. For this month, I do wanna save $500 toward my savings account. This is the rebuilding of my short-term savings account that we are currently working on, so I'm going to add that there. And I also want to add money into our Roth. So those will be my 2 goals for the month of June, and now I'm just going to fill out the calendar. I'm going to be using some dot stickers in order to fill out the monthly calendar. This helps me to color code all of the bills that I have coming up for the month. This is from my shop, and I will link it in the description box if you're interested in picking up these stickers. So for the first 2 weeks, I'm going to use this color. And I'm just going to start adding all of the bills that I have to pay. Okay, so I've added all of my bills. I have this reddish color at the very top. And so I have all of the bills covered. Now I'm going to use another color. I'm going to use the color pink here to highlight all of the different events that I have this month. On the 21st is my mom's birthday. So I'm going to put that in another color so that I realize that it's not a bill, but it is something that I will need to pay for. I'm getting her a gift. So I want to make sure that I purchase the gift and that I remember to do it. And I put down how much I have budgeted for her gift. So I've added that. I am going to flip over to my schedule planner really quick and look at the monthly calendar that I have here to make sure that I don't have any other things that I need to pay for. And I do, because my daughter has a birthday party on the 12th. So I want to make sure we get a gift for her friend. And I also know we are planning on going to the zoo on the 18th. So I am going to mark those off as well. So same thing, we're gonna keep that color pink to let myself know that it is something that we had to cover, but it is not a bill. So now I'm going to flip over to my monthly budget page. And I am going to write in all of the bills and all of the variable expenses that I'm going to have for this upcoming month. Just basically transferring everything from the monthly calendar over to my monthly budget so that I can keep track of the budget and how much we actually spent on that particular thing. So I've added all of the bills at the very top here. These are all of the fixed expenses that I have coming up. Down here, I do have my variable expenses. So I have my mama's gift, the birthday gift that my baby has to get for her friend, the zoo trip that we are taking. We're having a party at our home in this month as well. So I wanted to budget $100 for that, for any incidentals or anything that we need to get for that. The food budget is $800 for the month, but I also added an other for $250. And this is to give me a little bit of cushion. We have been going over this $800 a month. It has been closer to like $1,000 or $1,100, and that's just because the price of groceries is just so much more. So I gave myself a little bit of cushion there, and the last thing I need to add is our subscriptions. So I'm going to budget $200 for subscriptions, and then we are going to add all of this up. So we're working off of a $5,000 budget for the month. So we gotta just see how much we have left. And then I also need to set aside money for savings. So that total is $1,650. And so now, since I know the totals of my bills and my variable expenses, I'm going to back out the amount of money that I believe we're going to have. So like I said, we're budgeting off of $5,000. So when I subtract our bills, it is $2,598.91. And then I'm going to subtract the variable expenses. And we have $948.91. And now we're gonna set some money aside for our sinking funds. I do have a short-term saving goal of $500, so we're gonna add that. And then I also have a goal of putting money into the Roth IRA. We're gonna put $250 there. So this is $750. That leaves a remaining balance of $198.91. So I'm gonna put an extra payment on my credit card. All of our credit cards are paid off, but what I do like to do is put money on the credit card, have that negative balance, and then as we are charging, we're just bringing it back up to zero. This just helps us to get the points that we are able to get on the card without actually having to pay interest or anything on it. So I'm going to put that there, and that will give us a zero-based budget. So that's $0. We're going to put in the income. Let's add up the expenses. And that zeroes it out. So that is our zero-based budget. Just going to pop this page back into my planner. And the next thing that I'm going to do is set up my budget for the week. I am going to break down each of my budgets. Now, even though I am paying myself every 2 weeks for the most part, I still like to budget on a weekly basis. I like to break it down to the smallest denominator, because I realize that when I budget weekly, we end up staying on track a little bit more than when I used to try and budget for the month or budget every 2 weeks. I ended up falling off track or not checking in with my expenses. I feel like I do better when I am checking in multiple times throughout the week. So budgeting weekly just helps me to stay on top of it a little bit more. So that is what I'm going to do now. So we're gonna budget Monday through Sunday. I feel like that has been working out well for us. And so I'm gonna start this one on the 6th. So this will be the 6th through the 12th. And what I am going to do is just pull over all of the expenses that I need to cover within this week and just write them all out. So let's see, how many paydays do I have coming up? Am I gonna try and pay? Now I'm trying to think this out, because sometimes I will keep my money in the savings account. Like as soon as I get paid, I keep it in the savings account, and then I will just pay bills for the week. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Even though I'm not gonna get a check every single week, I think I'm going to store that money and try and pay it every single week. Yes. I'm hoping that that makes sense. But let's I'll put down my pay dates in yellow here because I did not mark those. And we will do pay dates on Monday. I was gonna do it on Friday, but I think Monday might make more sense. And if you're wondering how am I deciding when I'm going to get paid, it's because I'm paying myself. I'm writing it down as payroll, like as if someone else is paying me, but I'm not. It's just moving the money over from my business account to my personal account. So I really do have a lot of freedom here to decide how I'm going to pay myself. And I just decided to switch it in the middle of this process, because at first I was gonna do every 2 weeks just to give myself some time to let my income come into my business account, and I still may end up doing that just depending on how much income I make for the month. But I am going to mark it weekly. I think that staying on top of it weekly will help me to be more successful with our budgeting. So my paydays are going to be on Mondays, and I'm gonna do $12.50 a week to get to our $5,000 budget. And now I'm going back to my weekly breakdown, and I'm going to write that in. So if I break it down weekly, then I am not able to pay the mortgage in full from this very first payroll, because the payroll is $12.50 and my mortgage is $1,339.98. So we're gonna divide that in half, and I'm going to send off this amount. And I've gotten the question before, like if I put in a half payment, how do I do it? I won't do this online, because if you try to pay your mortgage online through the app that the mortgage company has, then you're not allowed to make half payments. But when I do it through my bank, I'm banked with Chase, and I just send it through bill pay, then I am able to make half payments. You just have to make sure that you mark it as a monthly payment and not a principal payment, because I have had that happen before where they applied the money to the principal and then it was like I hadn't paid anything on the actual mortgage, and I had to call them to get that corrected. So if you do this, just make sure you pay attention to that. So we have mortgage. Netflix is going to be subscriptions, so that's a variable expense. The next one I do have is Navient, which is my student loan. So that one is $154.22. And then we have our home alarm. Home alarm is going to be $66.67. And we have to pay currently for the equipment. So it's the actual alarm, and then it's the equipment cost, which that's going to stop in a couple months. And the only other thing that I have to cover under this payroll is the gift that my daughter has to get for her friend, but that is under variable as well. So we're going to add the Netflix subscription and the birthday gift here under variable. I had $35 set for that. Netflix is $21.83. And then we're going to do food. I'm gonna do $2.50 this week for food. And I am just realizing that I'm just marking all of these numbers down. I don't know if I'm over or not, so let's see. Whew, I am a little short. So I'm gonna have to change this number. We're gonna change this number back to 200, and then we'll create an other category. I'll put the balance there. This should give us a zero-based budget. Now, I'm not going to do any savings, any personal savings this week. I am going to add some money into savings from my business account, and that will come from the business budget side. So I'm just going to mark this off and mark this one off, because we're not doing either one of those this week, which I don't usually do any savings for the first 2 weeks of the month, mainly because my mortgage has to be covered in the very first 2 weeks. I usually divide it up and cover the mortgage, and then the last 2 weeks of the month is when I am doing a majority of my saving. So we're going to add everything in here. This is 953.56 minus 1250 is 296.44. And then this one is 296.44, which gives us the remaining of 0. So now I'm just going to add in the income. The expenses are going to be the same as the income. And then no sinking funds, no extra debt payment this week, 0 base budget. So that's going to be the very first week, and now I'm going to move on to the second week. So this is going to be the 13th through Sunday the 19th. So we're gonna add in payroll here. This is $12.50 again, and now I'm going to flip back over to my monthly budget to see what I need to cover this week. The main bills we have to cover this week is the mortgage, tax bill, and the gas bill, and that is $1,000. So we have $250 remaining. The variable expenses for this week, we will have the zoo at $150 and food. And we said food was going to be $200 for this week. It's the same every week. So I'm definitely going to be over this week because I have the zoo at $150 and food at $200, and that's $350. So what I will normally do is see if it's possible to get this number, because the zoo is the practical choice to change here. I know that it probably will not be $150. I know that it's probably going to be less than that, but I know it's also not going to be $50, which is what I will need it to be exactly in order to make this budget balance. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it at the $150. If I need to pull out, I will pull it from her short-term savings account and just replace it next week. But I'm going to keep it at the $150 and just keep in mind this week that this is going to be a tighter week. This helps me to kind of pay attention and make sure that we don't end up going over. I have adjusted this number before and did it on the front end and then ended up blowing the budget because I really wasn't paying that much attention. So what I will do instead is, instead of changing it on the front end, I will just make sure when I get to this when we actually go to spend the money, that I try and stay underneath it. So I'm going to mark it with red. This just tells me to pay attention. Anytime I flip to my budget and I see an asterisk or I see something that brings in my attention because it's red, and I know that I write in red if I want myself to pay attention. So I'm going to put the negative here so that I can make sure, because I am negative $100. And so this helps me to just really pay attention. So we're gonna mark off sinking funds, mark off extra debt payments here. And I'm not over my budget for the month. So that's why I know this is a week thing, but this is also why I like to pay attention to the weekly budgets, because it really just helps me to pay a little bit more attention than if I don't do it weekly. If I did this over 2 weeks, then I might just not worry about it. And then sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why I really just like to do it on a weekly basis. So I'm putting this here as well and putting negative $100. So that's gonna help me to really pay attention, make sure we don't go over on the week. The next one will be talking 620 through 626. So we have a $12.50 budget, and then this week it's going to be Entergy. This is when it starts to get a little bit lighter because we don't have any major bills during this time. We just have to cover our energy bill, and I think that's the only bill I have this week. $189. Yeah, So like I said, it starts to get really simple toward the end of the month. Now, if I need to replace money back into my short-term savings account, I can do that during this week. So let's see. We have $1,250 minus $189.95 is $1,060.05. So we're gonna add in food here. So we're gonna add in food, shopping, and other. So this is $450. Let's take it away from here. And we have a $610.05. So now is the time where I will start to set aside money for my sinking funds and start doing what I had set up for the month. So my short-term savings gets $500 right here. This is the time where I can start to budget for that. So we're gonna add in $500 here. That leaves us with $110.05. And then we will make an extra debt payment here. So then that would give us 0. So it's going to be $1,250 income. The expenses are going to be the $189.95 plus $450, and that's the $639.95. And then we have sinking funds of $500 and extra debt of $110.05. And so that gives us 0. And now the last one we're going to do, this is for the very last week, which is the 27th. And this one is actually through July 3rd. I'm going to add that here. And once again, this very last week, we don't have many bills this week. The only one I have is our water bill. So our water bill would be the $187.37. And that leaves a remainder of $1,062.63. And then we have food of $200. So we have food, shopping, and other. So it's $200, $250. So that's going to be $450 for the week. And this just gives us a little bit room. When I put in the shopping, $200, sometimes, you know, my husband will take from this, I'll take from this, we'll use it for personal money. It could be $50 for the week, and then I'll leave the rest in for our shopping budget. But it just kind of gives us some wiggle room there. And I'm going to take this from the balance. Let's see, 1062. That leaves us with $612.63. And then when it comes to our sinking funds this week, I don't have to do my short-term savings because we've already done that. The only thing I will have to do this week is the Roth contribution, and so that's going to be $250 there. If I take away the $250, that leaves us with $362.63, and I'm going to put that in for our extra debt payment. And I'm currently working on an old tax bill, so that's what I'm going to put this one to this week. We put that here, and then that leaves us with a remainder of 0. So income will be $1,250. Now we've set up all of the weeks of this current month, so we are fully covered for this month. I also have one more extra paycheck budget sheet in here if I need it, but I shouldn't need it because it is fully covered. So I am going to keep track of the income that I have coming in and the sources on this sheet here. And then at the end of the month, when I do my monthly budget check-in, that will be here. I usually like to do this on a weekly basis as well. This helps me to make sure that I'm staying on top of it and it's not too much for the week. And I am also going to add in my expense tracker here and start keeping track of all of the expenses for the month, categorizing them and adding the amount here so that I can make sure I stay on top of them all and make sure we're not going over budget. But this is it. We are fully set up and ready for this upcoming month. I really love this planner. It helps me out so much when it comes down to staying on top of our budget. Now, we aren't perfect, but I promise you, once I started budgeting on paper, this has helped me out tremendously. If you're interested in learning more about budgeting on paper, I do have a course that is linked in the description box. So if you're interested in finding out more and just learning about that course, then make sure you check out that link below. And I will see you guys in my next video. Until then, keep organizing your life so that you can achieve your dreams. Bye, guys.